Hi, I'm Sonia and I help people take their power back. In this video, I want to talk about the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his last name, but this is a book that I'd actually heard of this book. I didn't realize it was this book on a podcast years ago, and then I was at the bookstore at one point and just picked this book off the shelf and said, yeah, I'm gonna get this book. And then I started reading it and went, oh, I remember hearing about this guy. So Maxwell Maltz, I don't remember exactly the time frame at which he was a plastic surgeon, but he was a plastic surgeon. He published Psycho-Cybernetics originally in 1960 based off of the experiences that he had while he was a plastic surgeon. And you may be like, how in the fuck does this relate to manifestation? Well, let me tell you. This book is not a manifestation book. It is classified as a self-help book, but the concept and the thing that Maxwell found is very, 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 very interesting. So back in that time, plastic surgery wasn't what it is now. They talk about this in the book. They're like, back then, what they do now, that just like everybody gets plastic surgery, would be considered unethical. Back then, it was like, you need plastic surgery, right? Like you are basically deformed and need some kind of plastic surgery, right? So what he found wasn't about the people who would get the plastic surgery, because everybody needed the plastic surgery because they did have something that needed to be corrected or fixed or whatever, right? But what he found was what happened to the people after they had the surgery. And he did not understand why there were three groups of people. He's like, some people get the surgery and they were instantly a different person. Instantly. Others, it took them a minute to accept that they were a different person, that they looked different. And then there was a third group of people that no matter how different they looked, he describes in the book that they would be unrecognizable to their family. These people still thought they needed more plastic surgery. So he was like, why? Like, what is the difference between these people? They're like, from a aesthetic point of view, he's like, I can see the difference, right? Like, you don't look the same. How come some people are instantly changed and some people have zero change? And I think that's where this book is very interesting when it comes to the concept of manifesting and your thoughts creating what you're experiencing, because this is, I would say, one of the best books you can read about your self-concept and what you believe about what you're experiencing and how that influences like literally everything. So what he found were the people who would have the surgery and were instantly different had the self-concept of, I believe that the story that they used was somebody had really big ears, and I believe he was a salesman. I just remember this story. It's like, he had really big ears, he was a salesman. Because he had big ears, he didn't think anybody would buy from him. He didn't think anybody would go out with him or date him. Like, all of his problems in his life were because of his big ears. That was his belief. So he got his big ears fixed through plastic surgery, and instantly all of his problems went away. All of a sudden he was the top salesman. He like got married or whatever. Like, everything just changed. Because his thought process was, none of this can happen because of my big ears. If he would have just changed his self-concept to, my ears don't fucking matter, it would have changed anyway, right? But it's just an interesting way of looking at it, of like, that is how this works. You are making beliefs, and that is what has to be mirrored back to you. The people that it took a little bit of a time, like a time adjustment, didn't have as much of a attachment to, like, that was the problem. They just, basically what he found with all three groups is depending on what you believe about yourself, what you believe about your circumstances, what you believe is going on up, what you're telling yourself is changing your experience. And he did that by studying these people who were having plastic surgery and the way that the plastic surgery was affecting their life post-surgery. And that third group where they just didn't think that they looked any different was because of the way they thought of themselves. They told themselves they were ugly even though they looked completely fucking different. Because the thought process hadn't changed, nothing could change. He talks about in this book too that getting what you want is like a destination seeking missile. You put in the destination and then the missile is going to go there as long as you keep your focus and attention on that destination, which is the same things that like Neville Goddard or Florence Scovel Shinn or Joseph Murphy were also teaching. So yeah, I just wanted to come share that about this book. It was an interesting book. There's a lot of stuff, especially toward the end, that I'm like, okay, this guy definitely didn't understand manifestation or the degree of which you do have say and control in what you're doing. But it was a very interesting read, a book that I have never heard people in the manifestation community talking about. So yeah, Psycho-Cybernetics. Thank you so much for watching. Love and light.